Did you know that in the ongoing Harvard study of adult development, the longest-running study on healthy aging in the world, researchers uncovered a pattern that surprised even them? After tracking adults well into their 60s, 70s, and beyond, they found that the people who aged the strongest weren't the ones with perfect genes or large families. Instead, they were the ones who consistently built what the researchers now refer to as independent support structures, daily habits and connections that protected their physical and emotional health far more than anyone expected. Even more striking, participants who strengthened multiple support pillars showed younger biological markers, sharper cognitive function, and lower long-term health risks. And one specific pillar was linked to measurable changes in brain pathways, something scientists once believed barely changed after midlife. Before we begin, share your age and where you're watching from. We read every comment. Now let's start with the first pillar, the simple foundation that quietly shapes everything that follows. 1. Emotional resilience. Researchers from the University of Michigan followed more than 3,000 adults over 60 and found something remarkable. Seniors with strong emotional resilience had fewer doctor visits, lower rates of chronic illness, and significantly better cognitive performance. Not because life was easier for them, but because their minds recovered faster from stress. Emotional resilience isn't about staying positive. It's a biological process. When you manage emotions well, inflammation drops, sleep improves, and the brain's decision-making areas strengthen. In several MRI studies, older adults who practiced daily emotional regulation showed stronger connections in the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for memory, focus, and calm responses. But here's the part that surprises most people. Resilience is trainable at any age. One of the most effective techniques is cognitive reframing. It's the simple daily act of choosing an alternative interpretation when something challenging happens. Researchers found that after 8 to 10 weeks of reframing practice, seniors reported steadier mood, clearer thinking, and better stress recovery. You can start today. When a difficult moment comes up, a stiff joint, a worry, a frustrating delay, pause and ask yourself, what else could this mean? This small shift trains the brain to respond instead of react. And as we move to the next pillar, you'll see why building emotional strength first makes every other pillar far more powerful. 2. Physical reserve. One of the most eye-opening findings in aging research comes from a Johns Hopkins analysis of over 5,000 adults aged 60 and older. The researchers discovered that the biggest predictor of how well someone recovers from illness, injury, or surgery isn't age. It's something they call physiological reserve. Think of it as the body's hidden backup system. Your muscles, heart, lungs, and metabolism all carry extra capacity that you rarely notice until you suddenly need it. And after 60, this reserve becomes one of the strongest guardians of independence. Here's the surprising part. The most important contributor to a strong physical reserve isn't how much you move. It's how consistently you challenge your body just slightly beyond its comfort zone. Studies from the Mayo Clinic show that older adults who maintained or rebuilt muscle mass had dramatically lower inflammation, better balance, and up to 40% slower cognitive decline. Why? Because muscle acts like an internal pharmacy. Every time your muscles contract, they release protective molecules that support your brain, immune system, and even hormone balance. And you don't need intense workouts to benefit. 2 sessions per week of light resistance, bands, light weights, or even body weight can dramatically improve reserve within months. The key is progression, just a tiny increase in difficulty every couple of weeks. There's another piece too, metabolic flexibility. A 12-week study on adults over 60 found that those who practiced time-restricted eating, keeping meals within an 8 to 10 hour window, improved their energy levels and metabolic resilience by more than 40%. And here's where it gets interesting. Strengthening your physical reserve amplifies the next pillar in a way researchers didn't expect. 3. Cognitive engagement. In 2023, researchers at the University of Toronto published a study that followed older adults for nearly a decade. Their conclusion was striking. Seniors who regularly engaged their brains with meaningful mental challenges had up to 30% slower cognitive decline, regardless of their genetics or education level. But here's the part that surprised even the neuroscientists. It wasn't the difficulty of the activity that mattered most. It was the variety. Your brain thrives on novelty. When you learn something new or challenge yourself with a different kind of task, your neurons fire in patterns they haven't used before. Over time, this creates what researchers call adaptive wiring, giving the brain more pathways to work with when memory or focus becomes harder. This is why the same crossword every morning doesn't have the same effect as switching between puzzles, learning a bit of a new language, playing strategy games, or even exploring a new hobby. One of the most fascinating findings from long-term fMRI research is how social engagement strengthens cognitive pathways even more than solitary mental activity. Conversations that require listening, responding, recalling, and interpreting tone all activate integrated brain networks, the same networks tied to memory, emotional balance, and decision-making. And that leads directly into the next pillar, which researchers say may be even more powerful than cognitive exercise alone. 4. Social connection. The Harvard study of adult development, now running for more than 85 years, has repeatedly shown one thing. Strong social connections are the single most reliable predictor of long-term well-being. Not wealth, not perfect health, not family size. Connection. But here's what the newer data revealed. It isn't the number of relationships that matters after 60. It's the quality and the consistency seniors who had 2 to 3 dependable social contacts, people they could talk to, share with, or simply spend time around, had lower risk of depression, better cardiovascular health, stronger immune function, and up to 50% better cognitive performance on long-term memory tests. The reason is biological. When you engage with someone you trust, your brain releases oxytocin and serotonin, chemicals that lower stress, reduce inflammation, and protect the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory. Even brief, meaningful interaction helps. Regular conversations, a weekly group, volunteering, or reconnecting with old friends all trigger protective neurological patterns. But here's where the research gets even more interesting. The positive effects of connection become dramatically stronger when they're tied to purpose. And that brings us to the next pillar. One, researchers say, can shift the entire trajectory of aging. 5. Purpose and meaning. One of the most influential studies on aging and purpose came from researchers at Rush University Medical Center. They followed more than 900 older adults for nearly a decade, examining how a sense of purpose affected memory, mood, and long-term health. The results were staggering. Seniors with a strong sense of purpose, even a simple modest purpose, had over 30% lower risk of cognitive decline, reduced rates of stroke and heart disease, and significantly longer overall life expectancy. And here's the striking part. The benefits held true regardless of income, education, or past lifestyle. It didn't matter whether someone's purpose was volunteering, caring for a garden, mentoring younger people, or simply having a reason to get up and greet the day. The effect was consistently powerful. Neurologically, purpose activates multiple brain regions at once. It boosts dopamine, improves motivation pathways, and creates long-term resilience against stress and emotional wear. Many seniors think purpose must be grand or dramatic, but the research shows the opposite. Small, steady purpose is often stronger than big, overwhelming goals. And as powerful as purpose is, it becomes even more effective when supported by the next pillar, A factor in healthy aging that you can influence every day through your environment and routines. 6. Lifestyle architecture. One of the most overlooked elements in healthy aging isn't willpower or discipline, it's environment. A major longitudinal study from the Blue Zones research team found that seniors who lived in environments that supported healthy choices effortlessly had dramatically better aging outcomes than those who relied on motivation alone. In fact, the researchers concluded that environment is often more powerful than intention. Why? Because your surroundings influence hundreds of micro-decisions each day, decisions you barely notice, but your body certainly does. Simple factors played a major role: walkable routes that encourage gentle daily movement, homes arranged to minimize fall risks and physical strain, easy access to nutritious foods, social spaces that naturally invite interaction, and routines that reduce stress rather than add to it. What's striking is how quickly these changes add up. In several studies, seniors who made even minor environmental adjustments, like preparing healthy snacks in advance, placing light hand weights within reach, or setting up a dedicated reading or hobby space, showed better mood, steadier energy, and improved cognitive performance within weeks. Researchers often describe lifestyle architecture as the silent pillar, because once it's in place, it supports every other pillar without demanding effort. But as important as your environment is, there's one more insight researchers uncovered. A final idea, not a pillar, but a truth, that ties all 6 together into something far more powerful than any single habit. The thread that connects all 6 pillars. When researchers stepped back and compared decades of data, something became clear. No single pillar works in isolation. It's the combination, the steady weaving of emotional strength, physical reserve, mental engagement, meaningful relationships, purpose, and supportive routines that creates a life that feels lighter, stronger, and more in your control. The remarkable part? Every one of these pillars is accessible. You don't need perfect health, a big family, or a flawless past. You only need to begin, gently, consistently, with the pillar that feels closest to you right now. Because aging well isn't about luck. It's about building a life that supports you from the inside out. If you found this helpful, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next video, and share in the comments which pillar you feel strongest in, or which one you'd like to grow. Your story may help someone else. Disclaimer: everything shared in this video is meant to support you, not to replace the advice of someone who knows your personal health situation. If you're thinking about making changes to your routine, whether it's diet, movement, medication, or anything else that affects your well-being, please speak with your doctor or another trusted healthcare professional first. Your body has its own history, its own needs, and its own pace. A professional who knows you can help you make choices that keep you safe, comfortable, and supported every step of the way.